Hi, I'm Jack, and welcome back because I'm going to do a review for The Bad Batch Season 1, and I hope you guys have seen it. It's on Disney Plus, and it is a sequel series to Star Wars The Clone Wars. And before we get started, don't forget to follow me on social media because my username is down below on the screen, so don't forget to do that while you're at it. And this is a spoiler review. The season is finished. I'm going to talk about spoilers in the review, whether they're small or whether they're really big. So beware that. And with that out of the way, let's start talking about the season. Season 1 is set right after the events of Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars Season 7, following the devastating events of Order 66, where the Empire has begun to take over the galaxy, and the Bad Batch themselves rebelled against the Empire, and they're now on the run, and they're trying to take care of themselves and protect the girl known as Omega from the Empire. To kick off the positives of the season, I thought the animation is amazing. This is easily some of the best animation I've seen in shows in recent years because I loved how in Clone Wars Season 7 you had the same kind of animation as here, and they carried it over for the Bad Batch, and it makes all these clones and these characters look different and distinct amongst each other, especially the Bad Batch themselves, because they're mutated clones, and I love how the animation makes them look different from each other, not the same. And there's so much detail to their suits, and I love how like the space looks and all these other planets that they visit, like Ryloth and Camino. The animation is gorgeous. It looks great. It's easily the best they've ever looked for Star Wars cartoons besides Clone Wars Season 7, and it looks really great. I love it so much, and it is one of the highlights of the show. Oh, and the voice acting is phenomenal as usual. Dee Bradley Baker is the perfect voice for these clones because he's playing all these different characters within the Bad Batch, especially like Crosshair. You see that he channels all of his different voices onto these characters to not make them feel like the same person, and how you can compare them from like Hunter's voice to Echo's voice, like Crosshair's voice, and even Wrecker and all them. He's such a great voice actor, and he was the perfect choice to voice these clones ever since the Clone Wars cartoon. And it was great to see Ming-Na Wen return as Fennec Shand in the show set way before The Mandalorian, and the voice actress for Omega did a great job, and the voice acting on the show is stellar. They do not miss when it comes to voice acting because they all fit these characters so well. It feels right, and there's always a distinct voice so that you can always tell who's who, and they're not the same. And yeah, I just like that a lot. These Star Wars shows always hit the mark when it comes to voice acting. The action sequences are terrific. I love the action in Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars The Clone Wars, and they carry over with The Bad Batch. And because this is a show about the Clone Force 99, known as The Bad Batch, on the run, and you see them going on all these missions, the action sequences are stellar. They all look awesome, and they're animated very well. Plus, I really like these characters. Okay, no. Plus, I really like these characters. I really like the Bad Batch. I love Hunter. I love Echo ever since we were introduced to him in the Clone Wars. Wrecker, Tech, Omega. They're all great characters. They're very likable, and I care for these characters, and I want them to succeed. I want them to evade the Empire. I want them to survive, and they're very likable characters that you could feel for. And if you want to get another good look at the Bad Batch, watch the first four episodes of the Clone Wars Season 7 where they were first introduced. And because of that, I knew who these characters were, what each of them can do, and how unique each of them are. I really like these characters. They're a really great group of characters, and they're always engaging for me to watch, and I love seeing them on screen, and they're dynamic with one another, and it can be very fun. And because they're a likable group of people, it makes a lot of these scenes with these characters, whether they're in danger or whether the episode just started and all that, it makes it a lot better. And for the first season of the show, I thought they had a really compelling story idea where Crosshair, one of their own members, got turned over to the Empire and he turns against the team. And the Bad Batch go on the run and they got to protect this girl named Omega, who, spoilers, happens to be a clone herself. And it's a very compelling story because then it's about the Bad Batch against one of their own members who got turned over to the Empire. And it's a great idea, especially for Star Wars, with a team like that. And I liked how it's about that, but then it's also about them trying to protect Omega because she's so different from all these other clones. And they had great story ideas, and they can be fun to watch. And the Bad Batch is, of course, really good when it comes to the ideas that they come up with, especially when midway through the season, they bring back a fan favorite bounty hunter from Star Wars known as Cad Bane, because I loved Cad Bane on the Clone Wars. He was awesome. And the fact that they actually brought him back really surprised me. And it was for 2 episodes, and that was really cool. I really hope that they bring him back for more, especially because he was such a popular character around that time for Star Wars, and I never thought they would ever bring him back, but they did. And not just where the story idea is really good, but they also have like surprise characters appear. Like you also had Hera from Star Wars Rebels show up in the middle of the season for 2 episodes, where the Bad Batch helps her out and all that, which is sort of like a prequel to them kind of kicking off where she was at first until you see her in Rebels. And I loved how from the start of the show, you're introduced to Kanan Jarrus from Star Wars Rebels too, known as Caleb Doom. And that was really cool, the fact that the show starts right a few minutes before Order 66 started, and then it starts. And it was really cool. You have all these surprise Star Wars characters kind of show up here and there to help tell the story of the Bad Batch. Sadly, I feel like the story wasn't as fleshed out as it could have because there are way too many Mission of the Week episodes that feel very fillery and they don't push the story forward. And that's kind of a bummer because the story was great, but they didn't do as much with it as they could have. Not only that, but it just feels like the pacing wasn't as sharp as it could have been because once you get past that pilot episode, you have like a good chunk of episodes in between that and the middle of the season where it's just they go on a mission, they gotta get something or they gotta save somebody, and it doesn't do much of the story because while the show is about them like trying to find their place in the galaxy post Order 66, it's sort of dampened by the fact that it's just them doing missions that sometimes aren't tied into the actual Empire or the story against Crosshair. And it's just sometimes it just leaves you wondering, like, when is the pacing going to move forward? When is the story going to continue? And it could have been a little bit better. It could have been more fleshed out because there are some episodes that kind of left me wanting more than what I was given. And while these episodes are still fun to watch, they're still entertaining, I feel like they could have done a lot more with the story, and I feel like they didn't entirely deliver on it the way I think they could have. But then that also brings me to the issue that I feel like the Bad Batch weren't as developed as possible. They did give a lot of development to characters like Hunter, Crosshair, Omega, but when it comes to Echo, Wrecker, and Tech, they didn't get as much development. They each had moments here and there, especially Echo, because since we've known him back in the Clone Wars, he's had a good chunk of development there, yes, but because he's now a Bad Batch member, it just leaves me like I wish we got a little bit more of that, because even in those final few episodes, he doesn't have as much to say or as much to do. And then you have like Tech, and while he does stuff here and there, of course, he doesn't have as much development as, say, Hunter. And it feels like because they focused a lot on Hunter, Crosshair, and Omega, and of course some of these other side characters introduced, like Fennec Shand and Sid and all of them, it kind of weakens the character development because it felt like they had the chance to develop these Bad Batch characters, but they didn't develop them as much as they could have. And I'm hoping that with season 2, that they give each of these characters more development and on their own. So I'm hoping season 2 does that with these characters. And then I thought the final episode of season 1 was sort of underwhelming because part 1 was an awesome episode, one of the best in the season. And because this whole episode revolved around them with Crosshair trying to find a way off of Kamino as it's getting destroyed, it had potential, but I didn't feel much tension or stakes because of the dangerous situation they got themselves into, and because it felt pretty predictable. And I thought for a show with the Bad Batch, because there wasn't a lot of story-based episodes against them and Crosshair and the Empire, it left me wanting more, and I felt a little underwhelmed with how they ended it. It's still a solid episode, but as a finale, I wish it did a little bit more and was a little more exciting, but it had some good moments. Overall, The Bad Batch Season 1 was solid. It's a solid start to this show with the Bad Batch characters, and it had great story ideas. While some of them worked really well, some of them could have been developed more than possible, and I thought it's entertaining, it's fun, it has a lot of Star Wars action and all these fun moments here and there. So overall, solid season. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do with Season 2. And I do recommend this show for Star Wars fans, and you can check it out on Disney+. I'm going to give Season 1 a B, and I highly recommend it to Star Wars fans and anybody who has Disney+. Dave Filoni did a really good job with the show with what he had to work with, and he is excellent when it comes to Star Wars and all that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does with Season 2 and also with all these other Star Wars properties soon to come out on Disney+. With all that said, those are my thoughts on The Bad Batch Season 1. What did you think about Season 1? Let me know down below in the comments section. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And don't forget to follow me on social media. My username is on the bottom of the screen, so don't forget to do that while you're at it. And thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget to hit that like button and that subscribe button. And I hope you guys will stay tuned for more.
Yet they exhibit a concerning level of disobedience in disregard for orders.
What else you got?